5,000, I'm like, yeah, that's small. We've reduced the number significantly. Let's begin promptly. You know, you got to do what you got to do to take out the tanks. It definitely looks a lot more dire for the tanks, but again, 1,000 tanks is 1,000 tanks. Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Deadly Spark, and welcome back to another Ultimate Epic Battle Simulator video. Now today, we are doing, we're sort of harkening back to trying to defeat tanks. We've got 5,000 tanks in the middle, and we've surrounded them with a number of forces, which I don't know if will be enough, but I'm hoping the fact that it's surrounding them will at least separate the fire of the tanks enough to maybe make it doable. This is more going to be like a, potentially like a continuation thing. Like, this is the first force we do, and we escalate, and we escalate, and we escalate. But this is the first one around where we're trying 50,000 of standard type units, except the generals, they're a bit less than, they're a bit more than standard. And trolls as well, which have been reduced in numbers because trolls are quite powerful. And we've got them surrounding, so we've got 8 forces attacking the tanks. If they don't win, comment below what forces you want to see next. But for now, we're going to jump right in. Enjoy. Now, we are dealing with a lot of tanks, granted. Hopefully, oh, I put them probably too far away. Oh well. Well, they say, oh well, that's probably not good because it means they'll arrive at different times. I mean, now that I look at this, 5,000 tanks is a lot, so I guess we'll just see how it goes. We got a lot of tanks. We got some amount of units. I mean, I guess 1,000,000 zombies didn't beat 1,000 tanks, so I mean, these are different units though, so I guess we'll hope for the best. So, I'll stop saying so if you're doing a drinking game, you won't die. Let's begin. So the units that will get out the gate quickly are the generals, that's for sure. The trolls, they'll be pretty quick to get moving too. Hopefully the trolls get in pretty quickly because they will be the ones that will eat up shots, like tank shots better. The slowest to get there will definitely be the knights. Yeah, here's all the knights. They'll be really slow to get there. The trolls are already getting in a line. Let's see. Yeah, the modern soldiers will be somewhat quick. Well, these trolls are almost there. The Spartans, yeah, they'll be pretty quick. Those trolls will get there quick. The generals will definitely get there quickly. The trolls are getting hit first, so that's a good sign for the attacking forces. The knights will definitely be the slowest to arrive, I'm pretty sure. Though the way it's looking, I'm actually surprised at how slow the other units are moving in. I thought oh, look at that. I thought the soldiers would be arriving quicker, that's for sure. Yikes. Yeah, 5,000's a lot. They're gonna get close though. The Spartans are getting in close. The trolls are starting to surround on this side, so that's something. They're doing, yeah, the trolls are definitely first contact. And now, because of the trolls being first contact, their tanks are diverting fire, which is allowing all the others to get in. This is what I hoped for. And yeah, obviously the soldiers, they've got a different approach. So this side will probably be more effective once the trolls get in close, because then the tanks won't be shooting at the soldiers anymore. This will probably be the least effective side because of how slow they are to arrive. But once they get in there, the generals are falling. So it's unfortunate. How far they pushed in though? They've done a fairly decent job for being the weaker forces, but maybe I constantly like underestimate the tanks and overestimate other forces. I thought the generals would be one that would actually do a bit more than what they did. The trolls, obviously, they keep doing work. They keep putting work in. But yeah, so once the units get in about this close, that's it. Oh, look at that. Look at all the... Because of the bullets, look at all the bloody tanks. Wow, the tanks are still targeting the soldiers. That's not something I expected. I expected the tanks to prioritize the trolls, but the trolls are actually going down way quicker than I expected. Maybe because these ones on this side weren't dying as much. I mean, look, these trolls are still gathered. Maybe because those trolls gathered slowly, and the tanks focused other things instead. I mean, here, like these soldiers are giving cover fire for the trolls, and same on this side, so that's why they're not dying. So that's it's something at least. You know, I didn't expect the trolls to die as quickly as they did. Why do I always do this over and over again? I feel like I was gonna just have this one battle, but I'm definitely going to do another one after this where we reduce the tank numbers and see what happens. Because I mean, this is just a desolate wasteland. Yeah, like all the trolls, they're still alive here, so the tanks must have focused fire on what they thought was the priority. But yeah, this is extremely lackluster. This is not the intended sort of thing. 5,000, I'm like, yeah, that's small. And then it's like, but they're tanks though. So yeah, we're just down to basically nothing. Numbers overwhelm greater numbers if the firepower is great. You know, I'm just gonna call this early. This is nearly over, but it's gonna be over, so we'll jump straight back into the next one. We'll reduce the tanks to 1,000. Okay, and we're in for probably the last fight for this. We've reduced the number significantly. There's 1,000 left. We've brought everything in closer too, so they'll get there quicker. I don't know how much different this is going to turn out, but let's begin promptly and see if this plays out any differently. It will probably. Trolls are pretty strong, and there's only 1,000 of firepower, significantly reduced. But reduced firepower might not necessarily change anything, because 1,000 tanks is still 1,000 tanks, as 5,000 showed us. And they get to fire earlier before there's any distinct lines, because the units are closer. But again, the soldiers, I mean, they start out the gate real quick now. Getting their formations ready, but again, formations will kill them quicker because of the way tanks function. But the trolls have made contact everywhere now. It's just up to the other units to start filling in the gaps and seeing how this plays out. The knights again will be the slowest there. Probably should have put them closer. You can see that the generals are starting to fill in the ranks of the trolls, because the trolls are quite spread out. Same over this side in particular. There's definitely a lot of filling in the gaps of the smaller units, and they're definitely paying the price for it, getting up close. But you know, you got to do what you got to do to take out the tanks. Now the way that, because there's less surface area of tanks, the trolls are surrounding much more effectively, meaning that the tanks are not focusing on these units being bunched up. So there's significant piles of troops still firing and continuing their onslaught. It definitely looks a lot more dire for the tanks, but again, 1,000 tanks is 1,000 tanks. I should have taken that into account the first time. They are being eaten away though, but we also got to consider the fact that oh, look at all the generals putting in work here. But we also got to consider that 1,000,000 zombies didn't take out 1,000 tanks, and there's only 200,000. There's only 200,000 and 220,000, I should say, soldiers attacking this time. But it is a variety. It isn't just one blind force. It is a section of really strong units here. But I mean, they've been pushed out, so they're paying the price. They were digging the hole that the trolls weren't. We've got a bunch of strong units there. We've got a bunch of knights there at the back, though. The trolls are filled in the space there, more backup force. We've got soldiers firing from a distance that are just attacking with complete impunity because of the focus that the tanks have to fight on. So, and we got the trolls themselves, which are way stronger than zombies. So this is a different ball game. So we don't know how this is going to turn out. The closest reference to who's going to win is 1,000,000 trolls versus 1,000 tanks, because that's the only thing we've had versus 1,000 tanks. And the zombies lost, and there was 1,000,000. And 1,000,000's a lot, you know, contrary to popular belief, but 1,000,000 is a lot. But the soldiers are stuck. I feel like the biggest downfall of the trolls going in first is that some of the strong units, like these generals here, don't really get to do much before they get absolutely vaporized. They get to about here and they start dying, for instance, in this occasion, because they can't get to the front lines because they just have to stand behind the trolls. So there's a bunch of standard units not getting, like, that are strong, not getting a very, not getting much hits in. Much like here, they get to here and then they get stuck behind the trolls and then they just die to tanks missing the trolls. This is definitely the most effective side by far because the trolls have got the priority over the soldiers. Even some soldiers are pushing into some daring positions, but tanks are starting to hit them once they get to those lines. Over this side we can see the trolls are starting to push around. The knights are trying to get in. The best chance the knights are getting to get attacks in at the moment is getting blasted into the middle and still surviving. But the tanks are slowly losing ground. Bit by bit, they're just losing ground. Over here, it looks like all the Spartans are down. They got quite a few hits in before it became them just getting stuck behind. It is just the trolls on that flank now. This side, it's very much the same. All the regular units died behind the trolls who were just absorbing hits, and these units just couldn't stay behind because they eventually died due to misfires. Once again, it's the soldiers that are really carrying this. Because the melee units have really got control, and funnily enough, the knights who got there the latest are still alive, and I think it must be due to the positioning. Not as many tanks are overshooting behind. It seems like when the tanks miss on this side, they miss way over the top of them. As you can tell by more knights probably dying back here than they have up here. But with the melee units left, including the knights, the tanks are going to prioritize the knights for sure, even though they're not the main target. And look at the soldiers just charging. There's still heaps of the soldiers left, though. The trolls on this side are severely diminished in comparison to over here. A lot of this is likely being cleared out because not all of the tanks could fire. But as the tanks start, I mean, there's not many of them left, but as the priority of the tanks starts shifting, I mean, there's still potentially a battle to be had. The trolls are diminishing in numbers, but so are the tanks, and that's the interesting part. Like, this has probably been one of our closer battles yet, because with the power of tanks, I just don't know exactly how it's gonna go. Like this, I feel like as soon as the trolls go, it's tank advantage. But while the trolls still exist to absorb bullet after bullet after bullet, then this is still very much in the play for them. Oh, and I'm just looking at how many trolls are left. This is very much an advantage like soldiers over tanks, which is probably one of the few times that I've said this, that it's advantage soldiers. And I mean, I'm so tempted. This is a tempting thumbnail shot, but it very much gives away the outcome of this battle. But their tanks are holding out, and if they can hold out and knock out as many trolls, then, well, then they win. But it seems like this side must be because there's less tanks. Looking at the landscape, this could just be like a readjust to landscape, and we've got a completely different fight on our hands, because it seems like most of the trolls all died on this side because there was more tanks that could fire at the trolls, whereas up here only these tanks could hit the trolls, and therefore less bullets went into the trolls. Trolls with more health, they survive longer. I mean, surprisingly enough though, the trolls are dwindling in numbers somewhat at this corner. They were all the way up to here before. They've been pushed down to here. The tanks in the middle haven't been hit nearly as much as the tanks on the outside, because much like the tanks couldn't shoot before, not all of these soldiers, unless they're shooting through these bodies, not all the soldiers can quite hit all the tanks. At least not with the same accuracy. Like if I go down to ground level, there is a ton of bullets that are just completely overshooting the tanks. So there is still that outcome, though the modern soldiers they've got their brains screwed on compared to the others, and they do maneuver more effectively, and you can already see them completely surrounding the tanks and shooting from different angles, and that is going to be a huge downfall as well for the tanks. The trolls though, I will say the trolls numbers are going down at a considerable rate, but it could be at the point where it's too late for it to be any sort of meaningful amount of difference, because there are so little tanks left that the firepower difference is huge, and especially with their positioning, the tanks' inaccuracy could be their downfall, because as in the last one when there was 5,000, they were shooting down onto them. It's very easy to hit just shooting down. It's there's just, if you miss, you go over the top or behind. But here, it's such a small surface area the tanks have to fire at. If they miss, they just go off into the distance by miles, rather than just hitting a clump of units that they're shooting into the ground effectively. But yeah, that's it. They didn't quite get all the trolls, but the tanks have lost. I think this is the first tank loss that we've had, and you can see that the tanks held out for quite a bit. There's a fairly big square. They wiped out all the standard units fairly quickly, except for the knights, which were able to push in and be distraction for a bit, but the trolls really held the line the longest here, and there are still some left at the end. But the tanks almost got rid of all the trolls, not quite, but the real definitive factor in this was these units. So I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the like button. If you want to see more of this content, feel free to subscribe and leave a comment on what you see next. If you want to see this same fight again, but with different melee units, different soldiers, comment below on what units I should replace them with. I'll keep the trolls because the trolls tend to balance it out a fair amount. Maybe I'll reduce the number of trolls so it's a bit closer, but I think we'll leave it there. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!